The 5 lies couples tell themselves about their relationship. You're going to want to listen all the way to the end because I go through some really key common things that couples do that actually impacts their relationship in such a negative way. And then if you can stop doing this, it's going to help your relationship actually thrive and grow and stop putting the handbrake on your relationship, so to speak. Before we get straight into that, I like to share a little bit of a personal thing about something that maybe I've been working on or thinking about. And that thing at the moment is fear. And the thing I want to say about fear is sometimes when we go to make different decisions, new life choices, we want to step into a new area, but we're scared, right? We're not sure whether we should or how that would look or why we should even do that. And so I want to let you know that fear isn't a good indicator. Fear doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Fear is, we all know, to keep us safe. And because we have that fear doesn't mean that thing isn't safe. We just know that what's comfortable is safe, what we are used to is safe. And so I just want you to take stock. If there's something in your life right now where you're feeling fear around, really dig deep and ask yourself why. Is it a realistic fear? Is it a bit of an irrational fear? Because a lot of times you could be making really amazing, positive life choices or new decisions, and fear holds us back. But in actual fact, we can work through that fear and often a lot quicker than you realize. And when that fear's gone, you're ready to take the next step, take action in that new journey. So please don't let fear hold you back. It is not a good indicator. And honestly, our feelings are only a good indicator of things that we can just work through and process and let go. They're not a good indicator of what you actually should be doing necessarily. So I just thought that's a really important distinction to bring up before we dive into the 5 common lies that couples tell ourselves. So, number 1 is we don't fight, so we must have a great relationship. I wish wholeheartedly that this is true. However, I have had so many couples come to me and say, well, we've never fought, but now we're disconnected, now we're stressed, now we're upset. And it's because they didn't talk about the hard stuff. They left the hard stuff and they didn't finish those conversations. And it's funny because a lot of couples are like, we don't want to fight. And I don't want you to fight either, but conflict sometimes is necessary for growth. Conflict is necessary sometimes for shared understanding in a deeper way. If we actually avoid conflict, it can mask deeper issues. So while it's nice not to argue, it's great. Avoiding actually what's happening or what you authentically think and feel and just agreeing for the sake of agreeing usually catches up with you at some point. So the big tip on this one is finish conversations. Don't avoid the hard topics. Have the hard conversations because often on the other side of the hard conversations is deeper connection and deeper intimacy, emotionally and physically. And you have to have deeper emotional intimacy for deeper physical intimacy, just to clarify that one. So it's really important to actually finish these conversations. It's not just something people say that you need good communication. No, you need to finish this conversation, have good communication, a good resolution, or at least feel heard, validated, and understood around X situation. Number 2 common lie that I hear couples really say so much. And sometimes I wish I could be like, no, that's not how it works. It is that they should know how I feel without telling them. So what I mean by that is that my husband should know what I feel or what I think or what I even want or need without telling him, and vice versa. We are not magicians. We don't know how to mind read. And so your partner shouldn't know how you feel or what you think or what you want or need without you telling them. You need to tell them because how else will they know? Sure, if they're great detectives, they can eventually figure out that you get happier when they do X thing or whatever. But most people are not. And most people have such busy, hectic lives. There's no way that they're going to be able to take the mental bandwidth and time and space to work through that. With that in mind, I really need you to be clear and explicit in what you're telling your partner. Tell them what you think and feel so they know. So I'm going to tell you a little story. Often one of the common things that I hear couples say is, well, you come home from work and you're just so cranky and I think that I've done something wrong and I don't know what's wrong and I can't fix it, and it goes on. And this is very common. It's because neither of the people have said, I feel X. So instead of coming home and just being cranky, it's, I'm so sorry, I've had a terrible day. It's got nothing to do with you. I'm just trying to process this and move through it. See how it's different? Because every single human being always assumes it's to do with them, even when it's not. Just how it works, right? So when you can say in the good times and the bad times, you're able to identify, hey, this is what I feel, this is what I think, and this is what I need even as an extension onto that. and you clearly communicate with your partner, there's no guessing games. You both know where you stand, you both know what's going on, and it makes such a difference. You should never have guessing games in your relationship. Tell them what you feel, think, and need. Okay, number 3, it's just a rough patch. It will fix itself. If I had a dime, I'd be a trillionaire for sure. A lot of people think, well, it's just a rough patch. It'll fix itself. But most of the time it doesn't. So I will see couples 10, 15 years down the track, they've had a horrific time where things are just getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's those frogs in the pot and they're boiling, but they just don't know how hot it's really getting, that they're about to boil to death in terms of their relationship. And so if you don't get help ASAP and you don't learn some of these skills and you don't know how to relate to one another or what the other person wants or even understand them better, then it's just going to get worse. Now, I'm not saying you have a bad week or two. Sure, that's fine. If we're talking about a month or 2 months or 3 or 4 or years, that is way more than just a rough patch that'll fix itself. That actually needs support and help so you don't stay in that space, right? Because no one deserves to feel disconnected, unloved, unheard, unappreciated, or unvalued. You deserve love, joy, appreciation, gratitude, an amazing emotional connection, amazing intimacy, all of the things. So it's not a rough patch and you need to take action and do something because you deserve more. The next one, number 4, our relationship doesn't need work. We're fine as we are. Every relationship, no matter how incredible it is, no matter how good it is, doesn't mean I can still constantly learn things about my husband. I can still constantly put new focuses and effort into different areas that would be appreciated by him that I wasn't before. We can still grow and learn how to communicate better, how to interact better, how to set up maybe some systems in our relationship so we don't have any miscommunications or misunderstandings. There's so many things. We can constantly dial in the relationship habits. And something I'll say about this is every relationship is different in different seasons, but every family is in different seasons. So sometimes if you're in the newborn phase, the connection habits you'll have in that phase are very different than when your kids are grown up. You have a lot more time and space. So therefore you can foster and nurture your relationship in a different way. Every single relationship needs work and it requires effort and attention. It does not happen by osmosis, right? We do not get a fit, rip bod by luck. You work out, you're in the gym, you're running, whatever, you count your macros. That's clearly not my area, but you get the gist. And then the last one, which is the hands down, the most prevalent comment that I will hear is, I'm not the problem, they are. I always say that I want the marriage to win. I want the relationship to win. I want the team to win. Don't get me wrong. I want the individuals to be amazing, happy, healthy, thriving, of course. But if we put our relationship through the lens of the marriage winning or the relationship winning, not the individuals winning, then we get rid of this language that I'm not the problem, they are. This language isn't helpful. Now, I'm not saying that maybe somebody does have an extra lot of stuff going on and is contributing, the scales might be tipped a bit, but I promise you that every person has a part to play. And so this is where we talk about 100% responsibility for yourself. So in my relationship, I have 100% responsibility on how I show up, how I engage, how I interact, how I put the time aside, how I put the focus aside, how I nurture, love on my husband. And it's his responsibility for himself and how he acts and behaves and how he shows up and nurtures and does the same thing, right? So it's not enough to say, well, it's their fault. It's two to tango, as the saying goes. And so if you focus on your partner's shortcomings, but you never actually reflect on where you're at, you're actually missing a huge opportunity to grow your relationship. Because often there are things that contribute to the cycle, right? Usually it's not just one person. So sometimes one person's behavior, even if it's extreme, right? One person's behavior is not good and then the other person reacts. And then so they go and do the behavior again and the other person reacts and then they go and do the behavior again. The other person reacts. You get it? It's a cycle that just keeps going and going and going and going. And how do you break that cycle? Now, you cannot control anybody else and nor should you, but you can control yourself. So if you're the one that's reacting, you can change your reactions. You can moderate your actions. You can show up differently to the conversation. And then when you show up differently over here, this person over here has to do something. Now, will they go back and do the bad behavior again? Maybe. Or what often happens, they get very confused and then they like wrestle a little bit. They're like, well, I don't know what to do with that. You're not responding like you normally would. How? And then they have naturally end up being like, oh, do I modify my behavior? Do I do something differently? It plants seeds in their mind without you saying anything, only taking 100% responsibility for yourself. This is super empowering because the amount of people that say to me, it's my partner's fault, it's what they've done, it's where they're at, all of that type of stuff. Now, don't get me wrong, there are circumstances where that is true, right? But for the majority of relationships, it's not. If you take 100% responsibility and you change the way you show up, it can change their behavior. Will it? Maybe not, but it's always good because I always say to people, when you come back to another session, it doesn't really matter to me what the other person's done. What I want you to report back on is how did you show up? What did you do? Even if the other person wasn't holding up their end of the bargain, did you still show up? Did you still love on them? Did you still do all those things? Because when one person does that for the other person, this creates the positive feedback loop where one person's giving to the other person and that person feels like actually stepping out and giving to the other person. And it creates this loop, right? Where you want to be more kind, you want to be more loving, you want to be more affectionate. If you don't give or take the time, put quality time into your partner, somebody has to start it. Because another trap, which is not a part of the number 5, but I'll give it to you anyway. Another trap is that people just go tit for tat. Well, they're not doing this for me, they're not doing that, and I'm waiting for them. It's like a Mexican standoff. Who's going to go first? It doesn't matter because the relationship and team needs to win, not you. Extending that olive branch, doing something kind and doing something nice, you should continue to do that, even if you do it multiple times and it's not reciprocated yet. It sometimes takes people a fair bit to click out of those patterns, click out of those behaviors because they're so ingrained, right? For a lot of people, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of the exact same patterns and behavior. But you can take 100% responsibility and do something different. All right. So these lies, to be honest, come from a place of fear. They come from discomfort. If you can actually reorganize and address them, they can pave the way for a stronger and honest relationship. And that's what we want. We want honesty. We want authenticity. We want a real deep connection. We don't want surface level relationships because they eventually implode. Honestly, they do. And then it takes a lot because we're talking about 30 years or 20 years or 10 years of hardly any communication, no affection, no intimacy, all those things. But if you start this now, then you can make great, big, massive changes in your relationship. I've got some amazing episodes coming out, so please hit subscribe. Please comment below. I would love to know what you thought of this episode, and I cannot wait to talk to you about some exciting things that are coming up. I think you're really going to enjoy them. And also, just the last thing, if you're struggling in your relationship and you know that you've got to do something different, I offer a free relationship reconnect call. You can see it just here on YouTube in the links and go and book a call. You can see in the episode notes as well. It's completely free. It's via Zoom. You get to talk to me like this. So we can actually give you some tips and some strategies to get your relationship on the right track and get you reconnected, stop feeling like roommates and back in love. Now it's time for you to go and turn your relationship on.